First of all, let me thank our host for Beit Zatoun. The first time I came here was actually to hear Leo and a member of the now governing party in Greece, Syriza, speak about the prospects for a democratic and peaceful revolution in Greece. And ever since then, I've never ceased to be impressed by the good work that Beit Zatoun is doing and the forum that it provides. I regard this organization and this facility as a treasure in Toronto, and I think it deserves all of our support. Secondly, Charmy did mention that I'm also a board member of the Real News. I was invited to join the board by Paul and Charmy after they moved to Baltimore, and I must say that I'm just absolutely amazed by the people that they've assembled, the team that they've assembled, the creativity and the enthusiasm and the passion for those young people, and their activism is inspiring. So I hope that you'll all continue to support the Real News strongly. It's a tremendous organization, and I'm proud to be a member of the board. That said, I'll answer Charmy's request that I give you an update by starting with what happened on Friday of last week. There had been, as many of you probably know, a very tortuous back and forth between the Greek government and the Troika. I'm not going to refer to them as the institutions. I think that's a bit of a whitewash. They are the Troika. They should be called the Troika, and that's the IMF, the ECB, the European Central Bank, and the EC. And at times the negotiations broke down, at others they were revived, and I think that many people, and for good reason, envisioned that eventually there would be a capitulation by Syriza, for the simple reason that they have very little leverage in this negotiation. The country is insolvent. The banking system is completely dependent upon emergency liquidity assistance from the ECB, and the population is suffering horrifically. But to the surprise of everybody, including myself, I must say, on Friday of last week, a game-changing event occurred, and that is that Syriza, according to them, were presented with an ultimatum by the Troika, the terms of which I'll describe briefly. And upon being presented with this ultimatum, the Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, called for a referendum. The essential points of I'll talk about the differences between the ultimatum that was put to Greece by the Troika and the position that Greece took, the latest position that Greece took in the negotiations. I think that'll give you a good sense of what's going on. First of all, there was agreement on the overarching question of the primary budget surplus. The primary budget surplus is basically the surplus that remains in the government budget before payments of interest on the national debt. And Greece agreed, to my disappointment I must say, to quite stringent primary surplus targets, namely 1% this year of GDP, 2% next year, 3% in 2017, and 3.5% from 2018 to 2022. These numbers may not mean a great deal to all but the most sophisticated economists, and I'm not one, but I understand, having paid careful attention to the discussions from economic experts on this issue, that these primary budget surpluses would require extreme austerity. So the fact that Syriza was prepared to accede to them, I think, is testimony, first of all, to the tremendous pressure to which they are subject, but it's also testimony to the fact that they are not, at least in substance, acting like a radical leftist party, as much as I think they'd like to be. They were prepared to make enormous concessions in order to keep Greece within the Eurozone, because that appears to be what the majority of the population wants. And they don't think that they received a mandate in January of this year to take Greece out of the Eurozone. So they acceded to that. What's the problem? The problem is that the means by which they proposed to achieve these surpluses was deemed by the Troika not to be credible. Why? One of the means by which they proposed to do this was to impose a corporate tax rate of 29%. It's currently at 26%. The Troika said that's too high. It should be 28%. They proposed to impose a one-time tax on corporations of something like 12% of net income, or I think it was net income, just for this year, and the Troika said, no, we don't want you to do that. They proposed to increase the VAT, but not as much as the Troika wanted, the VAT being a consumption tax in Greece. And in particular, they were prepared Much to the chagrin of their coalition partner, Syriza was prepared to raise the VAT in the Greek islands, which was thought to was going to hit the all-essential tourist industry quite hard. But the Troika said you need to raise the VAT more. And finally, although Syriza was prepared to significantly reduce pensions, which are the main source of sustenance for a very large swath of the population in Greece, including children of pensioners, although they were prepared to decrease them further after a 40% reduction in the last 5 years, the Troika said it's not enough. And just to give you a sense of how vicious a position that is for the Troika to take, 45% of pensioners in Greece live below the poverty line. It was extraordinary that they would say that this is not enough, that you're not prepared to cut them further enough. So if essentially what the Troika, and the justification that the Troika took for taking these positions was that they thought that this was going to hurt the economy, a rather ironic position for the Troika to be taking after imposing an austerity program which demolished the economy. Any economist with an ounce of integrity and sense about him or her would readily acknowledge, as the IMF research department has in fact done, that austerity has had a devastating effect on the Greek economy. But all of a sudden, when there was a proposal to shift the burden to corporations and the wealthy, the Troika became concerned about the state of the Greek economy. So at that stage, Tsipras pulled the plug on the negotiations, having been presented with an ultimatum, and called for a referendum on Sunday of this week, in which people are going to be asked a very specific question. Do you want us to accept the ultimatum or not? And one footnote I want to talk about is that since having called the referendum, the Troika has, and various heads of state in the Eurozone have vehemently denied that this was in fact an ultimatum, which is rather curious because they've also been saying today, there's been a procession of them coming forward today and saying that if you, the Greek people, vote no, if you direct your government not to accept this offer, then you're out of the Eurozone. I don't know how anybody can say with a straight face that that isn't an ultimatum. It's an ultimatum of the worst kind. And this will give you a sense of the kinds of people that the Syriza is having to deal with. The spokesman of Yannis Varoufakis, the finance minister, in a moment that might have been a bit lacking in diplomacy, but was nonetheless quite revealing, referred to the people that they were negotiating with as pathological liars. And I won't mince any words. I think they've proven themselves to be precisely that.